All right, welcome back, everybody. This is yet another episode of Strange Planet. And in recent sports news, we have gotten, as we are mostly in this party here, mostly Giants fans, but I'm sure most of the world would agree with us too, that we have now come to realization that at least we think it's true, that Mr. Tom Brady is officially retired. I mean, he saved his worst season for his last season, but I can say that I'm not disappointed one bit. I'm not going to deny his talent either, but I will say thanks for the memories. 2007 and 2012 against the great Eli Manning, in which you did not win. But yeah, not to mention one of the two of those, I believe it was the 2007 one. Yeah, that was the one he almost went undefeated. So if there was ever one to take, that's the one I'm glad we.
Yeah. So I'll be clear about something. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
That's true.
Hands down. I mean, even his worst detractors cannot. You can't have any legitimate argument against that.
No, there's no denying it. It's sadly true.
However, my hatred of him always stemmed from the fact that he played for New England. I'm from New York. Like I cannot root for a New England team. It's just not in me.
Nope.
I can respect players from New England, but I can't root for their teams, and I don't want them to win. So when Tom Brady took his talents to Tampa, I became kind of a fan. I could appreciate his talent for what it was without having
feeling guilty.
Without feeling guilty about liking someone from New England and rooting for someone from New England. And I commend him on a spectacular career. And, I hope he, gets his life back together because, he had a very, very tough year. I think, when you look at the greatest athletes in sports, when you look at, a Michael Jordan, because Tom Brady was, the Michael Jordan of football. And, you really, dedicate, you have so much passion, you don't want to leave the sport. You don't know who you are without the sport, and
it becomes a part of them pretty much. Yeah,
right. And so you were operating at such a godly level in that sport, so you don't know who you are without that sport that you've worked so hard all of these years perfecting your talents, getting all these records. You don't that is you. You're synonymous with that sport. And so, you can understand why Tom Brady felt like he needed to stick around. It's just a shame, his wife didn't also
stick around.
To stick around.
Yeah, that's true. Even worse, she was throwing it in his face too with Antonio Brown and all that other photos and stuff that flooded social media and everything.
I don't know how much is true, but let's just say, there was trouble in paradise there.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, someone else in the sports world that can probably identify with this. I don't know if you remember Hulk Hogan. His wife divorced him and got together with some younger dude who she was saying was better at sex in bed with her and shit like that, and that's crazy.
Well, I mean, but Hogan did steroids, so that's probably not.
Yeah.
That probably didn't help him in the sack.
That's that probably crippled some things. But
well, he was in the news recently because he's apparently paralyzed from the waist down now.
I just was going to bring that up. What? That's true. I heard about that. Ow. He had some kind of operation, or I don't know if it was an accident or what happened, but yeah, apparently he lost mobility. His legs are out.
Wow.
He can't walk or something. Yeah. I mean, he's got to be kind of up there at this point too. I mean, not for nothing. Like you were saying, Jordan was Brady was like the Jordan of football, more or less. Technically, even though it's entertainment and it's kind of bullshit altogether, Hogan created wrestling. He really kind of did. If you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was the first
major icon,
superstar that
he was a front runner for WWF when it was a thing.
Yeah. And if you think about it too, going
he
back to him,
he was the face of entertainment wrestling.
and the funny thing about him was like his whole career, like if it's funny too, because you look back and like when he first started, he was all about like, saying your prayers, taking your vitamins and doing all that. But he was like generally always the good guy, the American good guy. You know what I mean? He had the American theme and all that shit attached. But it's funny because he is one of very, very few in that little, world over there that like when they decide in the script to make him go bad, usually the fans aren't usually with it. I think they also tried it with The Rock and it didn't go as well. But like when Hogan flipped to bad and he started that whole like NWO thing in like the early 2000s, I could be off a little bit, give or take on the dates, but like people loved it. Like it was not the reaction they were, I think, expecting to get. And that was like the first time that like in that, I don't even really want to call it a sport because it's hardly one, but like it's like
Well, all right.
the first time,
All
you know what I
right.
mean, something like that happened.
I'll say on this, it is a sport because it's physical and it's draining. All those impacts on the ring are not fake. They still hit that ring. I mean, granted, it might be a little padded for them to not hurt themselves.
Yeah, and staged though.
You're
like it's all
basically
staged.
watching it's staged, but you're watching a ballet, and you're relying on your other athlete, to perform their move properly so it doesn't break your neck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I suppose that's true too.
While the outcomes are supposed to be scripted, all that work in the middle to like choreograph the stuff and like make sure they're doing the moves properly so they don't hurt each other. That's the sport end of that.
So they're basically stunt actors.
Yeah, that's actually the way I would word it more. Yeah, that's a good way to word it.
It's like a formal stunt performance.
Right, exactly.
Masked as a sport, but it's still a physical thing. These guys train hard for that.
Right.
Even though
it's true and it's dangerous.
It's entertaining. Some of them train hard, others use steroids, but
right. Well, I think supposedly nowadays none of them. Well, they at least say that they drug test them, but
I'll say this that that sport is rampant with not just steroids. You'll hear stories from like Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Roddy Piper. Like they'd give you uppers and downers in the same fucking day. So it wasn't just the steroids; they were pumping those guys full of all sorts of shit.
Right. You ever seen that movie, The Wrestler?
Yes, Mickey Rourke.
It was kind of a sad, messed up movie, but it was like the post game of what it's like, I guess, after the fame, but yet you're still in it. And like sadly, I think you brought up Roddy Piper. Believe it or not, he died, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he died.
But he actually said that movie was very like accurate as far as like what happens in the sense. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I guess people look at him like he's a has-been. Yeah, like I mean, when I was a kid and shit, like back in the day, like I guess I dibbled and dabbed a little bit and watched some of it here and there.
No, I love wrestling.
Yeah, like Hogan era. Yeah, like it was Diesel and who else was in there? Scott Hall, but he was Razor Ramon then. He's another one that died a couple of years ago. Wow, shit. But I tells you, man, when you on that juice, man.
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yep. Actually, you guys probably remember when that fatal accident with his brother. It was like a pay-per-view event or something, and they had him. He was supposed to be lowered, like I guess, like Sting from the roof, but I think the cord snapped.
He was just like doing a new character where he would like come down on some kind of a line to the ring, and the cord snapped. And I think he landed on the pole, like back up, back down.
Yeah,
that was Owen Hart,
ring posts.
Yep. Yeah,
Owen Hart. Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm sorry, I've never seen the video. The fact that it's not out there is amazing, and I love people for not doing that. But at the same time,
you'll never see that. That seems like it's gone forever. Like that never surfaced.
That never surfaced, and I'm glad it never did.
Yeah, it's probably out of respect too, because that was a fatal accident. That was a freak fatal.
People saw that.
Oh, if you were at the event, I heard the front line where like that post was. They got sprayed, dude. Like it was bad. It was a little messy too, from what I heard. Yeah, it's sad, but. Yeah, that's at the same time, I guess it's
stunt work.
Like shit like that happens all the time in movies too. Like I remember, I think on the set of Deadpool 2, phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it, it's probably one of my favorites. But there was a stunt person that died in that. Actually, it was another like freak accident. I think I was reading something back when the movie came out. But I don't remember exactly what happened. But someone I don't know if someone got hit by a car or I don't remember what the hell happened, but it was the stuntman didn't make it. That's all I remember. And I was like, damn, that's rough.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You have Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I know. And that's another whole.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another. How do you feel about that?
I mean,
You think he should be charged for this?
I don't know about. I mean, I haven't reviewed the evidence, so I don't really know whether there was enough to charge him. But what I will say is that he talked an awful lot about it. Maybe because he had nothing to hide, but there's a conflicting account of, he said he never pulled the trigger, and there's supposedly evidence that the trigger had to have been pulled in order to
get the bullet
discharge
out of the gun?
the bullet. Yeah.
Yeah, like
so maybe there's some sort of malfunction. That's what he's claiming. But I mean,
well, in your opinion, Rook, who would be at fault? The person who maintains the props, or the actor who's using the prop at that moment? Like, who? If you take all the bullshit and rhetoric away,
well,
you were just left with those things. Who's responsible?
It depends on who has like knowledge of, like, so under a negligence theory, you would have to say like, okay, this person like had a duty of care to make sure that the gun was not armed and properly maintained, that it was didn't have just that it didn't have a bullet in it. So whoever handled that gun in the lead up to that is responsible for
the outcome.
Now, I don't know what the common practice is on movie sets with respect to pulling the triggers on fake weapons.
Yeah, the props and whatnot.
You would think that as an actor, you would feel free to pull the trigger on a fake weapon during a scene. Like,
yeah, like I hear you, because if you think about it, he probably just picked it up and was in character and just did it with his role, not thinking.
Yeah,
that it was a fake weapon. I mean,
if your job in a script is to pick up a gun and shoot someone, are you going to not pull the trigger? I mean, like, that's part of the script, and there should be no problem with that, because there shouldn't be a fucking loaded gun on the set.
Right. That's why I feel like whoever's in charge of the props and stuff should be probably a little bit more accountable.
Whoever's in charge of maintaining, the props, the gun props, they may be accountable. But in terms of Alec Baldwin, unless he had some reason to know that the gun was loaded, I don't think he's liable at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because how would he know? Think about it. Sometimes too, when these actors are in character, they really like change even like on and off the set. Right. They still keep that in their head. So he may not have been thinking anything about this gun being real. You know what I mean?
Right. So in terms of like, I don't know whether part of the theory is that he's, a producer on the set, and so that negligence in terms of like hiring or something in his role as producer, maybe. I don't know whether that's something they considered, but I mean, I don't know how you say that unless he had knowledge that the gun could be loaded. I don't see how it's not common pattern and practice for an actor to pick up a fake gun and
shoot it
and use it. It's funny, my my brother, he I think used a fake gun, and they look real. He used a fake gun on an episode of a TV show, and he actually like walked outside with it by accident, and then had to bring it back in. But they look real. They're like sort of replicas, and apparently this was like a real one, and you're supposed to properly, decommission the weapon from use, and